Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Hope everybody's having a good night. And I'm going by the moon cycle here, so it's Thursday, and according to the moon, our Sabbath day is tonight. So we're going to go ahead and do the Tanakh portion, and it is going to be called Vayera, which means he appeared. And it's going to be in Genesis 18, chapter 1, verse 1, chapter 18, verse 1, through chapter 22, verse 24. And I'm going to be reading from the Tanakh. And Yahuwah appeared unto him by the terebinths of Mamre, as he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood over against him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed down to the earth, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. And actually, I'm reading from I got the Hebrew here, and it doesn't look like it says Yahuwah's name there. It just says my Lord. So, it doesn't say Yahuwah's name there. And I was talking to somebody on Facebook today who was arguing this fact and saying that this was Yahusha Jesus in here, and I was like, you don't think that Yahuwah can appear as a man, or in 2 men, or in 3 men? I mean, because there's men here, and it doesn't say he was in just 1 man. He could have been in all of them. And so I didn't get any response from that one, but anyway, we'll continue reading. Let now a little water be fetched, and wash your feet, and recline yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and stay ye your heart. After that ye shall pass on. For as much as ye are come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes. And Abraham ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto the servant. And he hastened to dress it. And he took curd and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they said unto him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee when the season cometh around, and lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, and well stricken in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. And Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? And that says Lord right there. That's not Yahusha, or not Yahusha, but Yahuwah. That's not the word, it's not Yahuwah there. And Yahuwah, there's Yahuwah there, said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child who am old? Is anything too hard for Yahuwah? Yeah, it says right there too. At the set time I will return unto thee, when the season cometh round, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. And the men rose up from thence, and looked out toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And Yahuwah said, Shall I hide from Abraham that which I am doing? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I have known him to the end that he may command his children and his household after him, that they may keep the way of Yahuwah to do righteousness and justice, to the end that Yahuwah may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And Yahuwah said, Verily, the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and verily their sin is exceeding grievous. I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned from thence and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before Yahuwah. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there are 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou indeed sweep away and not forgive the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, that so the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do justly? And Yahuwah said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will forgive all the place for their sake. And Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto Yahuwah, who am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for the lack of 5? And he said, I will not destroy it, if I find there 40 and 5. And he spoke unto him yet again, and said, Peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for the 40's sake. And he said, Oh, let not Yahuwah be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall 30 be found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto Yahuwah. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the 20's sake. And he said, Oh, let not Yahuwah be angry, and I will speak yet, but this once, peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the 10's sake. And Yahuwah went his way as soon as he had left off speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. Okay, that's chapter 18. We're going to do chapter 19 now. And remember, it's through 22, I believe. Yeah, 18 through 22. Okay. And the 2 angels came to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot saw them, and rose up to meet them, and he fell down on his face to the earth. And he said, Behold, now my lords, yes, it says lords there, turn aside, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your way. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the broad place all night. And he urged them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men that came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out unto them to the door, and shut the door after him. And he said, I pray you, my brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters that have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for as much as they are come under the shadow of my roof. That's a horrible thing. Oh my gosh. And these are virgin daughters. Wow. That's a horrible father. I don't agree with that. And they said, Stand back. And they said, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs play the judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and drew near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand and brought Lot into the house to them, and the door they shut. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whomever thou hast in the city? Bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxed great before Yahuwah, and Yahuwah hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spoke unto his sons-in-law, who married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for Yahuwah will destroy the city. But he seemed unto his sons-in-law as one that jested. And when the morning rose, and the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters that are here, lest thou be swept away in the iniquity of the city. But he lingered, and the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, Yahuwah being merciful unto him. And they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be swept away. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my Lord. And it's Lord, it's not Yahuwah, and it's lowercase. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shown unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest the evil overtake me, and I die. Behold, now this city is near to flee unto it, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live? And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city of which thou hast spoken. Hasten thou, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zor. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot came unto Zor. Then Yahuwah caused to rain down Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yahuwah out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he had stood before Yahuwah, and he looked out toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the land went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up out of Zor, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zor. And he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us, after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed for our father. And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he knew not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed for our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he knew not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bore a son, and called him his name Moab, the same as the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger, she also bore a son, and called his name Ben-Ami, the same as the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. Okay, there's chapter 20 now. And Abraham journeyed from thence toward the land of the south, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur. And he sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream of the night, and said to him, Behold, thou shalt die, because of the woman whom thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. Did I skip something? No, that's right. And now Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Yahuwah, wilt thou slay even a righteous nation? Saith he not himself unto me, She is my sister, and she even herself said, He is my brother. In the simplicity of my heart and the innocency of my hands have I done this. And God said unto him in the dream, Yea, I know that in the simplicity of thy heart thou hast done this, and I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I thee not to touch her. Now therefore restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if thou restore her not, know thou that thou shalt surely die, thou and all that are thine. And Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and told all these things in their ears, and the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and said unto him, What hast thou done unto us? And wherein have I sinned against thee, that thou hast brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What sawest thou, that thou hast done this thing? And Abraham said, Because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And moreover, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And so she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I went unto her. That is thy kindness, which thou shalt show unto me. At every place whither we shall come, say of me, He is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen, and men servants and women servants, and gave them unto Abraham, and restored him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before thee, dwell where it pleaseth thee. And unto Sarah he said, Behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, it is for thee a covering of the eyes to all that are with thee, and before all men thou art righted. And Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Abimelech, and his wife, and his maidservants, and they bore children. For Yahuwah had fast closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Oh, I didn't realize down here too. Okay, and then we're gonna go to 21. And Yahuwah remembered Sarah as he had, and Yahuwah did unto Sarah as he had spoken. And Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son, Isaac, when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born unto him. And Sarah said, God hath made laughter for me. Every one that heareth will laugh on account of me. And she said, Who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should give children suck? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne unto Abraham, making sport. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight on his account of his son. And God said unto Abraham, Let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman, in all that Sarah saith unto thee. Hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall seed be called to thee. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. And Abraham arose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and strayed in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the bottle was spent, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. And she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, Let me not look upon the death of the child. And she sat over against him, and lifted up her voice, and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said unto her, What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him fast by the hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew, and he dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. I'm going to stop here for a minute. That is so interesting, because I read this in Isaiah, I believe it is. And it's talking about how the nation that rises up against Babylonia, they're skilled archers, and they're good with the bow. And it's interesting that we just read this, because it's saying that Hagar's son Ishmael became an archer. That's interesting. Anyway, and he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the captain of his host, spoke unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou dost. Now, therefore, swear unto me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto thee. Thou shalt do unto me and to the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of the well of water, which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I know not who hath done this thing, neither didst thou tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them unto Abimelech, and they two made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What mean these 7 ewe lambs, which thou hast set by themselves? And he said, Verily, these 7 ewe lambs shalt thou take of my hand, that it may be a witness unto me that I have digged this well. Wherefore that place was called Beersheba, because there they swore both of them. So they made a covenant at Beersheba, and Abimelech rose up, and Phicol the captain of his host, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and called thereon the name of Yahuwah, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistines many days. Okay. Let's see if that was the end of it. Whoops, I did not mean to close that out. Just bear with me. Okay, so I'll go to the end of that one. Alright. And it came to pass after these things that God did prove Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Here am I. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son, whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. Wait for the plane to cross over. And he cleaved the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up, and went unto the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder, and we will worship and come back to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and set it upon Isaac his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spoke unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built the altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of Yahuwah called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou art a God-fearing man, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I had somebody come to me about this, and they're like, oh, you know what, Abraham was going to kill his son, and Yahuwah was going to allow it, and, you know, he was going to be sacrificing his son, just like supposedly Jesus, was sacrificed on behalf of our sins, but the Tanakh doesn't say that, so that's a lie. But here, this is not, Yahuwah giving permission to go and do it. Yahuwah is clearly testing him. He clearly says right here, now I know. So when somebody says, now I know something, it's because they were testing you. And that's the situation right here. Now I know that I can trust you. Why? Because I've tested you. I mean, it's not, there's nothing to be added there. It's not Yahushua Jesus being allowed to be slaughtered. It is Yahuwah testing Abraham to see if he would remain faithful to him. And that's what we see all throughout the Tanakh. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Adonai Jireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount where Yahuwah is seen. And the angel of Yahuwah called unto Abraham a second time out of heaven, and said, By myself have I sworn, saith Yahuwah, because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thy only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed, as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations be, the earth be blessed, because thou hast hearkened to my voice. So Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up and went together in Beersheba. And Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, she also hath borne children unto thy brother Nahor, Uz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram, and Kesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jidlaph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begot Rebekah. These 8 did Milcah bear to Nahor, and Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Rumah, and she also bore Teba, and Gaham, and Tehash, and Meachah. Okay, that's the end of the Torah portion. So now we're going to do the Haftorah. And the Haftorah is 2 Kings chapter 4. So let me find that. Gotta back out of this. Looking for the kings. Okay, I don't see the kings in here. Oh, there they are. Okay, so 2 Kings, chapter 4. Oops, that's chapter 5. There. Okay. And it is 1 through 37. So chapter 4, 1 through 37. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear Yahuwah. And the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 children to be bondmen. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thy handmaid hath not anything in the house, save a pot of oil. Then he said, Go borrow these vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. And thou shalt go in and shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and pour out into all these vessels. And thou shalt set aside that which is full. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons. They brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go sell the oil, and pay thy debt, and live thou and thy sons of the rest. And it fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem, where was a grey woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. And so it was that as oft as he passed by, he turned and thither to eat bread. And she said unto her husband, Behold, now I perceive that this is a holy man of God that passeth by us continually. Let us make, I pray thee, a little chamber on the roof, and let us set for him there a bed, and a table, and a stool, and a candlestick. And it shall be, when he cometh to us, that he shall turn in thither. And it fell on a day that he came thither, and he turned into the upper chamber, and lay there. And he said unto Gehazi his servant, Call this Shunammite. And when he had called her, she stood before him. And he said unto him, Say now unto her, Behold, thou hast been careful for us with all this care. What is to be done for thee? Wouldst thou be spoken for to the king, or to the captain of the host? And she answered, I dwell among mine own people. And he said, What then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, Verily, she hath no son, and her husband is old. And he said, Call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. And he said, At this season, when the time cometh round, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, Nay, my lord, thou man of God, do not lie unto thy handmaid. And the woman conceived and bore a son at that season, when the time came round, as Elisha had said unto her. And when the child was grown, it fell on a day that he went out to his father to the reapers. And he said unto his father, My head, my head. And he said to his servant, Carry him to his mother. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon, and then died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, and shut the door upon him, and went out. And she called unto her husband, and said, Send me, I pray thee, the one of the servants, the one of the asses, that I may run to the man of God, and come back. And he said, Wherefore wilt thou go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. And she said, It shall be well. Then she saddled an ass, and she said to her servant, Drive, and go forward. Slacken me with the riding, except I bid thee. So she went and came unto the man of God to Mount Carmel. And it came to pass, when the man of God saw her afar off, that he said to Gehazi his servant, Behold, yonder is that Shunammite. Run, I pray thee, now to meet her, and say unto her, Is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with thy child? And she answered, It is well. And when she came to the man of God to the hill, she caught hold of his feet. And Gehazi came near to thrust her away. But the man of God said, Let her alone, for her soul is bitter within her, and Yahuwah hath hid it from me, and hath not told me. Then she said, Did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, Do not deceive me? Then he said to Gehazi, Gird up thy loins, and take my staff in thy hand, and go thy way. If thou meet any man, salute him not, and if I salute thee, answer him not, and lay my staff upon the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, As Yahuwah liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And he arose and followed her. And Gehazi passed on before them, and laid the staff upon the face of the child, but there was neither voice nor hearing. Wherefore he returned to meet him, and told him, saying, The child is not awakened. And when Elisha was come into the house, behold, the child was dead, and laid upon his bed. He went in therefore, and shut the door upon them twain, and prayed unto Yahuwah. And he went up, and lay upon the child, and put his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands. He stretched himself upon him, and the flesh of the child waxed warm. Then he returned and walked in the house once to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him. And the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. And he called Gehazi, and said, Call this Shunammite. So he called her, and when she was come in unto him, he said, Take up thy son. Then she went in, and fell at his feet, and bowed down to the ground. And she took up her son, and went out. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land. And the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servant, Set on the great pot, and sieve the pottage for the sons of the prophets. And one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds, his lap full, and came and shred them into the pot of the pottage, for they knew them not. Whoops, I think I read further than I should have. Not by much, just 2 verses. Alright, so that is the end of the Tanakh portion. And I'm going to go ahead and end it here. So I hope everybody has a good night. And Shabbat Shalom.